right, well, hey, listen, week 4 of Police Technology. I'm so excited to have you in class with me again, and make sure you shoot me an email if you got any questions. I've kind of been surprised. Haven't gotten a lot of emails from you all, a lot of communication, so I definitely want to hear from you if there's any issues. I've had a great week. I hope you're having a great week. This week, midway through this video, or near the end, I'm going to show you a video of the police, the all-electronic police motorcycle that we're checking out at our department. And there will be some questions in your quiz about that, so make sure you watch that portion too. It's not all just text this week. We're going to throw in some questions about the quiz too. So as far as the text, we're in a chapter that I really enjoy, which is police radio communications, because it's something that I really focus on. Because I'll tell you, especially in small agencies, when I walk into these small departments as their new police chief, a lot of them have some major issues with their radio communication systems. In fact, when I was at Marietta College, when I got there, you could literally sit in my office and stand in the dispatch center, and you wouldn't be able to hear the two radios communicate to each other. You wouldn't be able to call someone in the dispatch center from my office. And so that's important to me to really focus on this radio thing, because man, it's so important as a street police officer to know your radio system, to be able to communicate with your radio system. So that's very important. So the first thing is compatibility of radios. So I'm in a county where it's a very unique situation. We can't talk to the county, and the county sheriff's department can't talk to our city police department, and the city police department can't talk to anybody, because everybody has a different radio system. So now I'm going to tell you about what I call the great bait and hook of 9/11. Okay? So 9/11 happens. I'm a police officer during 9/11. I remember this happening. So 9/11 happens, and all the police officers from everywhere just flood to New York City and just try to help out as much as we can, right? And what happens? Nobody can talk to anybody. So my agency went down to 9/11, and so what our job was to do was we were staged outside of a fire department to provide security for the fire department, because there was just so much waves of support, but also we didn't know what was really going on, terrorist attacks. We wanted to protect our fire departments, and so they staged a lot of the outside agencies around these fire departments to provide security for the fire departments. The problem was no one could talk to anyone. No one's radio worked. Well, nationally, there's really not been a solution to that problem. But the federal government started to say, at least statewide, locally, within the states, you should be able to talk to each other. And so what happened was a bunch of grant money came flying out to these to the states that was supposed to trickle down to local governments for us to be able to communicate with each other. They had these radios that were compatible with each other. And so what happened was, once again, what I call the great bait and hook strategy of these radio systems. So radio systems within the states, I've seen this happen in 3 states. The first day I saw it happen was in Indiana. And I saw it happen. Luckily, we didn't get sucked into it. And once I saw it happen in Indiana, I fled from this in the other 2 states, Ohio and South Carolina. So here's what happens. All this money comes flooding in, and the word interoperability comes into play, right? Everybody's like, oh, you got to be interoperable. You should be able to, everybody should communicate. You should be able, here's what it says, you should be able to stand on one side of the state and talk to somebody in the other side of the state. Why would we need to do that? Tell me a situation where I would need to do. Why couldn't I use my cell phone to do that? But anyways, so that was a big hook. So they came in and put in these radio systems. Every state calls it something different. In Ohio, they called it the MARCS system, right? And so they put these radio repeater towers throughout the state, which would allow the same channel or the same radio to communicate with all these different towers across the state. So you could stand on one side and communicate with somebody that was on the other side. Oh, how great is that, man? That is so sweet. And so they came out with this grant money, and they said, hey, listen, this is only going to cost you, in fact, it's going to cost you nothing. We're going to give this to you for free. You're going to get this for free. We set up these towers for you for free. And the radio that you need to use is a $4,000 radio. We're going to give it to you for free. Just take it. We have all this grant money. Just take the radios. It's yours to have. We want to help you, right? Nope. You get all these radios for free. So you get this radio, And for some reason, it's a $6,000 radio. Now, I buy digital radios for my department, and they are $600 to $800. This is a $6,000 radio. Now, I hold the radios up side by side, and I look at my $800 radio and their $6,000 radio, and I can't tell the difference, but maybe there's something special I don't know about. But the key to this is that the system is shut down so no other radio can hop on that system. So if I have a UHF radio, let's say I have this radio right here. This is a Motorola, and this is a UHF radio. If I have a UHF radio, any brand of radio will work on my UHF repeater. I can go out and buy, a Kenwood radio, and that will work. There's hundreds of brands out there that will work on that UHF repeater. But oh, no. These new repeaters that came and saved us as law enforcement agencies, only their special radios will work. So you have to buy that special radio that's $6,000. So if one goes down, you can't shop around for a radio. You're buying their radio. And then about a year into it, they decide, you know what? We're going to add what we like to call a user fee, okay? And so you've had this service for free, and you've had free radio systems, and this is great. You know what we're going to do? We're going to add a little service fee onto it, but it's only $25 a month per radio. Now listen, for a small agency, you have 10 officers, okay? You got 10 cops, and you don't have a repeater, and you don't have the money to build the infrastructure of a radio system. Maybe this is a good option for you, okay? $250 a month, that's a little steep to me, but okay, all right, maybe, But if you're a county sheriff's department that has just received for free, like our county that I'm in, 400 deputy sheriffs, we just got 400 radios, and now we're paying $25 a month per radio? Why wouldn't you just build your own repeater system in your own county? You're putting so much money into it. And it was what I call the great. But now you've got $6,000 radios in the hands of your officers. You've already issued them. They know how to use them. It is the great bait and hook. All right, friends? And so just be careful that when you start seeing that happen, I saw it happen in Ohio, I saw it happen in Indiana, it's happened in South Carolina. And that's why our city police department can't communicate with anybody, because the city police department got these wonderful, awesome radios, and everybody else in the county got them. And then when everybody else in the county got the bill, they said, we're going back to our old stuff. Well, the city had already gotten rid of their old stuff and dropped their repeater tower down. And now all of a sudden they're stuck with these radios, and they can't talk to anybody. They can't even talk to their fire department, man. So this interoperability was a reverse. It was exactly opposite of what we wanted to have happen. So those are things to remember when you're looking at a radio system. Maybe it does have some of the latest and greatest. Okay, so some of these radios have some great, awesome features. But is it what I need? Can I talk to other people? Because if I can only talk to my own department, maybe that's not what I need to be looking at. Okay, so digital radio. So this is an interesting system. So digital radios. I'm going to show you the difference between a digital and an analog radio. All right, so this is an analog radio. It looks very much like the digital radio. Now I'll tell you the digital radio is a little bit lighter, but that's whatever. But this one doesn't have a screen on it. It doesn't have buttons and keys like that. So what's the difference? Well, when I turn on my analog radio, okay, and I hit the button, it broadcasts. You don't know if it's broadcasting, but you're hoping it's broadcasting. So this radio is sending out a signal, okay, and it's going out, and most police radios, it's going to hit what we call a repeater tower, okay? So this maybe has, let's say this has a mile range of 4 miles, but my dispatch center is 12 miles away. So how are they going to hear me on this? Well, my radio is going to send out a signal to that repeater, and when that repeater gets it, it's going to take exactly what I say, or exactly what it gets from me, and it's going to broadcast it out as hard as it can. It's like a super radio, right? It's going to broadcast it out, and that's going to give me a range of maybe 30 miles, right? And so now my dispatch center can easily get that. Here's a little bit of the problem with the analog radio, though. It's when I speak, let's say I have a range of 7 miles. Let's say 5 miles. 5 miles with this. So at 1 mile, my range is up here. But as I get further away and further away, my range starts going down. So when I finally get to that 5th mile, it's not very good. You're gonna hear a lot of static in the background. You may not be able to hear all the words I say, but it's gonna be pushing out as hard as it can to get it. So then when the repeater gets it, it doesn't make it better. It just takes exactly what it heard from this radio and sends it out. Okay, and so that's a little bit of the nice thing is you might be able to go out a little bit further than what you thought you could. You will at least hear a little bit of something, but it's just voice. It's just I put my voice in here. It takes my voice, turns it into wavelengths, sends it out to the repeater. The repeater picks it up and sends it to my dispatch center. Okay, analog radio, digital radio. Now this is a little different. This is a little exciting for us, folks. Okay, so digital radio. When I turn this on, I got another one right here. So let's talk about repeater before we get into this. This radio is not sending a message to this radio, okay? This radio is going to bypass this radio. And it's going to send a message to the repeater, which will then send the message to this radio, okay? And so you're like, oh, well, the radio's right next to each other. What, No, this is sending a message to the repeater, and the repeater will send a message to this radio, okay? And so because these are set up on a repeater system. So let me show you how I know that my message is getting across. Now listen to this. Did you hear that? Let me do it again for you. You hear that little? Yeah, I know that was great, right? So you hear that little beep. That means that this is hitting the repeater, okay? That means that my signal is going through. So unlike the analog to where you start slowly drooping down at 5 miles, if this range is 5 miles, it's 5 miles. It's a straight square up and down. And at that 5 mile mark, you're going to hear this. At 6 miles, when you get to 6 miles, you're going to hear a steady that's saying it's not hitting the repeater. Nothing's going to go out. The advantage, though, is at 5 miles, when I do this, it's still crystal clear. Every word I say, it's crystal clear. So either you're in digital or you're out of digital. Either they're going to hear you crystal clear or they're not going to hear you at all. Another advantage of digital, you can see this display, okay? So this, let me see if I can get it up there for you a little bit better. All right, so this display, this radio has a unit number assigned to it. I can actually take this radio and I can send this one a text message, okay? So I can communicate through text message. I can also private call. So if I want to say something to just maybe a group of officers, let's say my North End officers, I can private call North End officers, bypass everybody else using the digital technology. Huge advantage for us. The last thing I was going to tell you about digital technology is it allows us to GPS monitor where our officers are at, okay? So there's a GPS locator in here. It's doing the normal GPS thing just like you would on your vehicle, but then it's sending the information about that GPS signal to the repeater, and the repeater sends it down to our office and tells us where that officer is so we can GPS locate that officer anytime we want to. Why is that important? Well, I'm on a 900-acre campus that has like 700 acres of woods, okay? So if I have an officer out in the woods checking on somebody, they go down and we can't get a hold of them, I want to be able to GPS locate where that officer's at. So those are some important features there. Let's talk about FCC licensing. So listen, so there's 2 ways to handle this as a police department. You can either contract out with like a retailer, which is what we're doing. It's called a commercial license, okay? And so we don't have our own FCC license. There's a group, a Motorola dealer here in town. He has a antenna on the top of Paris Mountain, which is the tallest mountain in our area. And man, he's got a bunch of antennas up there. And so we just rent a license off of him and tie into his system. The other way is to do like a private license to the FCC. Apply for a license, have your own repeater. No one else can tap into it. No one else can use it. And you set it up yourself. Those are your 2 options in that FCC licensing, okay? And so FCC is pretty strict on what they do and say. Every now and again, a dispatcher has to come on the air and talk about what your FCC license number is. You'll just hear them throughout the day, just repeating the FCC license number. And they'll also talk about, like profanity. You can't use profanity on FCC airways and that kind of thing. Let's see. Oh, I did want to talk to you about all right. So a lot of times people say the best place to put a repeater is on the top highest portion that you can get it, and that's usually pretty true. You have a repeater way up high, that signal's coming out, and as it falls down, it has better range. Okay, so a lot of your repeaters will be way up high and send it down. So why would I want to put a repeater on my campus? Well, let me tell you the reason for that. Because that's a strong repeater sending out signal that's kind of getting dispersed, and by the time the signal gets down to you, it's solid enough for a digital radio, so it's crystal clear, but it's not strong enough to penetrate through buildings. So if you're having an issue with penetration of buildings, you need to get a second repeater that will trunk into the first repeater and that will penetrate through those buildings. Very important piece of information. Um, then the chapter gets okay. So the chapter gets into a little bit of police computers and and police computers and iPads being used and that kind of thing. Um, I've always been a big fan of police computers and car computers. Here's the problem with in-car computers. The realistic problem is they're like $2,000. Okay, and so you're really looking at a computer whose capability is worth about $500, but you're paying $2,000 for it because you have to get a rugged police computer. And I'm telling you, I tried to use non-rugged police computers, and man, policemen are just too rough on it. The nature of our business is involves in and out of the car, in and out with equipment. We're just too hard on it, and we tore it up. So you have to get a rugged computer. That's why a lot of departments are going to iPads. An iPad or Windows-based device is a good alternative for us in some instances. If a company has specifically written an app for us, like a license plate app, so if we can run license plates through our iPad app, great, man. We're happy with that. The problem is when they haven't done that. So a good example is license plate readers. So we tie our license plate readers that are on the back of our police cruiser, that as we drive around and read the license plates, we tie that to our in-car computer so it can translate that data and send that information over to check for wanted vehicles. There's no iPad app for that, and we can't plug those things into an iPad. It requires a specific port to plug it into a computer, and so iPads and stuff, great technology because we can get one for $300, $400, $500. We can throw an OtterBox on it and make it rugged for another $100. And now we're only into it, $700. Whereas a computer went into it for $2,500 maybe. So that's a little bit of the differences in why some people use iPads, why some people use computers. The last thing I'll talk to you about cell phones. Some departments issue cell phones. They are nice to have. If you're paying $25 per month per radio, why not just buy everybody a cell phone? Some of the disadvantages, though, you have to remember when you're dealing with cell phones. The first thing you have to remember is everything is public record, okay? So all the numbers calling that cell phone, if it's owned by that department, public record. The second thing you have to remember, it is cell phones have the ability to take pictures and video. If a police officer is taking pictures and video of something, that becomes evidence. So if that officer walks in and he wants to take a funny picture and video, that is evidence that can be subpoenaed into court, okay? So we have to be careful about those kinds of things, issuing cell phones to officers without proper policies and procedures behind it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and throw on the video of the motorcycle for you, okay? I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy your week. Read your full chapter. You have a quiz coming up on it, or you have a quiz this week on it. Hopefully you understand everything. Email me if you don't. I will talk to you later. Have a good week. Okay, guys, it is your favorite professor. I'm here to show you a great new piece of technology we're demoing. This is a Zero motorcycle, and let's find out a little bit about it.
Hi students, my name is Doug Whalen. I'm the Eastern Regional Sales Manager for Zero Motorcycles. Zero Motorcycles is a California-based manufacturer of all electric motorcycles. We don't produce any gas vehicles, 100% electric. New technology. The vehicle basically will operate a range of over 100 miles on a single charge, and the cost of operation is literally pennies per mile.
100 miles and pennies per mile. So you're talking about less than $1 a day to operate, guys.
Less than $1 a day to fully charge a battery. Yep.
Cool. So tell me about when I'm riding slow in town, is that going to cause me to have less miles per gallon?
Yeah, it's actually different than gas vehicles are rated. The range is actually greater at slower speeds than it is at higher speeds. So you're using less energy. The vehicle also is equipped with regenerative deceleration and braking. So every time you roll off the throttle, it puts a little bit of juice energy back in the battery.
All right, that's a key piece for this, guys. If you're rolling downtown, you're actually going to have better mileage per battery use because of the, what is it?
Regenerative deceleration.
Regenerative deceleration. All right, cool. Now let's talk about the sound, man. Can you give us a little spin around to show us how loud it's going to be?
So the vehicle is actually on now. And unlike a conventional bike where you have an exhaust note, you have a little bit of a whir.
Listen to this. Listen to that, guys. That's pretty cool. Look at that. All right, man. And it's still equipped with all the same kind of stuff that a police motorcycle would have, right?
Just like any standard police outfitted motorcycle, yes, sir.
So you guys, and talk about stealth mode and the importance of that for us.
Well, the advantage is it doesn't create a noise, so you can hear what's going on around you, and it's much more consumer or public friendly. It's more approachable.
All right, cool, guys. Hey, hope everybody enjoyed it. I'll see you in class next week. Have a good one.